Okay, hello. Welcome to H3 Health, Happiness, and Hope. We have a very exciting interview for you tonight with the lovely ladies from Seamless Cares. I'm just waiting for Scott to join me. Apparently, it was his hair was in a disarray or something, but he's going to be joining us right away. And then we will introduce you to um, Rihanna and Robin from Seamless Cares, and they're going to talk to you, explain to you, help you understand an amazing service they have for people who are 65 years plus who might need a little bit of support staying in their home. And so they can come in and support. So they'll get into all the nitty gritty details about that. Um, where is Mr. Sweetman? Oh my goodness. You know what? We're gonna introduce you to the ladies right now, and then when Scott comes in, he can join us. Okay. So here I have Rihanna and Robin. Rihanna and Robin, welcome to H3. Glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tell us about what you got happening. I'm super excited about it. So tell us more.
Yeah, wait. We
we own a company, Seamless Cares. We do personalized in-home care, which means that we're able to do any care that is needed in a home. So unlike home care where they can only do medical, we can do pretty much anything in home, medical and non-medical. And one of the largest things that's happening right now is the new legislation with the government providing funding for this kind of care, effective April 1st, done through Blue Cross.
Scott is with us now. Scott, Rihanna just started telling us about this program, and here's my synopsis of it so far. It's for people age 65 plus. They don't need medical care, but they need care supports in order to stay in their own home. Okay. So thanks for joining us, Scott. And you got your background working really nice now. It looks great. Thanks.
Yeah, I just ran across the street and chose another house with this.
Perfect. Good news.
We like it. We like it a lot.
Excellent. So non-medical support. So it could be somebody to help like cook, make meals.
Yeah. So it could be medical or non-medical. We strictly, for us, care is care. Whether it's medical or non-medical. Yeah, so we can do meals. The definition from CRA for in-home care is house tidying, meal prep, meal appointments, errands, any sort of like, and then with the medical, it could be bathing, actual medical procedures, anything like that.
Excellent. So in errands, what does that mean? Also like visiting people, visiting their
absolutely. It can be that companionship piece that so many seniors who may be isolated within their home. It can also mean helping them get to and from medical appointments, perhaps picking up groceries. Again, it's really geared around helping them be as independent as we possibly can on their terms.
And keeping them in their homes and keeping to do that.
So let's try and set the stage a little bit. And I know, I'm sorry I was late, but just for our visitors that might be a little bit late like me getting on, we're looking at people 65 and older or 60 and older.
So Alberta standard for this program says 65, the retirement age. It essentially, so you'd have to be on CPP is kind of what CRA is saying.
Okay. And the demographics of who might really need this type of care. As you know, we're focused on health, hope, and happiness. Yes. And so what kind of situation are the people that might need this kind of care in?
Okay, that's a great question.
That's a loaded question.
So really where it starts.
Scott had a nap this afternoon. He's fresh. He's got good job, Scott. Yeah. So how would you answer that one, ladies?
So we begin by, at the end of the day, it starts with AHS, home care, case manager, needs to identify that there's a need in place that's not currently being met. And so what we do is, and we're fortunate here in Alberta that we can self-refer to AHS home care. And they will come at our request, at our client's request, and do an assessment and determine what level or what support they need to live independently or live within their home. And they will then approve X amount of hours that they need support in the home to help them stay independent.
And they have 3 levels that they kind of go off of. One is respite, which essentially is any sort of short-term medical. And then they have personal care, which again is long-term medical or personal needs like bathing, that kind of thing. And then they have what they call houseware or housework care. And that would be like meal prepping, cleaning, that kind of
Errands,
situation.
those types of
Errands,
things.
those kind of situations.
Yeah, I know from personal experience that home care, the system that was previously in place, doesn't allow for any of those things. And
No. And prior to this, so this new program is actually offered here in Alberta through Alberta Blue Cross.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in the Lethbridge area. It's live as of April the 1st.
Mm-hmm.
It's also available in Calgary and Edmonton, and it is growing. Grand Prairie is also available, Red Deer. So it is growing across Alberta. And it allows us to kind of meet those needs differently than we have historically in the past.
Yeah.
And historically in the past, when a client has received home care, they have had no choice in who their provider is. This program specifically, as it's called, client-directed home care, allows our client to select from a list of approved providers who's available to provide home care to them. We're one of those providers.
Yeah. And they're doing a differentiation between home care and then in-home care. So home care would be like AHS home care. They come in and do those short-term needs, whether it's discharge, wounds, that kind of thing. And then in-home care is kind of like what private care for seniors is.
You linked up that in-home care perfect, the two of you. Did you practice that? That was good.
No,
Not at all. We've worked together for a really long time though, so that probably helps.
we often finish each other's sentences at this point.
Oh, that-
Sometimes, unfortunately, we can read each other's minds.
Al and I have been doing this for a long time. We just talk over each other. So we
We do that too, 100%.
We started this business in 2020, and I still get goosebumps when I think about the impact that we have on our clients' lives or what we're able to do for clients, just being able to provide medical and non-medical. And that really is a game changer for so many.
Mm-hmm.
Historically, like it's been one or the other. You can't get help here. You can do this. You can't do this. And so by bridging that together and our internal, care is care.
yeah,
You know,
that's beautiful.
one
I
of
love
the
it.
things.
Go ahead,
in
Scott.
our minds, it's simple.
You had a question, Scott, and then I have one. Go.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, one of the things when I had a very serious illness and I've required care since then is the loss of dignity. And, as you indicated, there's so many things that aren't a choice. You're treated like you're really a second-class citizen. You're treated like a problem often. And I found that's one of the things that I've really identified with my experience is, the access to care is okay, but healing, I know, as you both know, just from the way you've expressed yourself and the business you've created, is so much more about healing the whole person, about letting them maintain the dignity and independence. So they want to get better, right? If you strip somebody of their dignity, Al and I've talked about people in concentration camps and that were perfectly healthy and pass away because they no longer feel they have the dignity or purpose or desire to live.
Yeah.
And this sounds like a really great program for that. How does that motivate what you do?
Well, one of the things that we've done to differentiate ourselves from like every other private company, yeah, you're fine, is that we also, in that sense, when we first started this business back in 2020, like Robin had stated, one of the things that we wanted to do is make sure that there wasn't like rolling caregivers. So we actually don't hire a caregiver unless we have a client, and the client is part of the hiring process. So they actually become part of the family, which improves that quality of life and that relationship. And so we also have found that it also increases like people feeling like people again and making that choice. A lot of times when you have like rolling caregivers or like you don't know who's coming into your house, you still feel out of control. We don't do that. Like it's the same caregiver. We have one client currently who is dementia and sometimes can't remember their loved one because they're not there every day, but our caregivers are there literally 12 hours a day and they know who they are. So that kind of adds to that situation. And what helps with this program is that people like that who can't afford care can now afford care, because the program covers roughly 70 to 80%, just like any sort of benefits program. And they just have to top up.
But there must be also a maximum per month, right? Like $500 a month or something like that, or
So when they get assessed, they give them a max, yes, but they can get reassessed. Like, the program's not even live, and we have a test client currently that's on the program, and they've been assessed within the last, like, since February 19th. They've been assessed 3 times, and their hourly rate or hours per
Allocation, yeah.
have already gone up.
wow.
Yeah, so it just depends on the need. It's based on hours of needs, and right now, as far as we're aware, the max is 170 hours a month.
Whew, that's like
Yeah,
full-time hours. Wow. Yeah.
pretty much. Yeah, so it's quite a few hours, and I actually see that changing in the future, because in the long run, this is going to help with keeping people in homes. It'll help solve the shortage of homes for seniors, and it'll also help with the fact that we're not buying and building all of these seniors complexes everywhere where are being short staffed and all of that, because they get to pick.
Right. And how important is that given the baby boomer, like the cycle we're going to experience, right? Who is this?
Exactly.
Who is this coming to help us here with this conversation?
This is my son Thatcher. So
Hey,
He's
How
our
do you
right
do
hand
it?
man. Yeah, he's our right hand man. He comes to the office all the time with us, so
good
he
to
knows how,
see you.
he knows how
Good
it
to see
goes.
you. So as I was saying, with the whole, constructing more buildings. So if you're constructing buildings for this huge population curve that's going to go through of all the boomers, and then
Yeah.
after the boomers that's gone through, well, then there's going to be a lot of vacant buildings. But this, solves that problem, right? So,
Yeah, well, it solves it, or assists with it, either or. Yeah.
right.
One of the biggest complaints that we've heard over the years, especially since COVID, is lack of staff, shortage of staff, all that kind of thing. And all the healthcare workers are getting tired. It's a very stressful situation that they've been put in. And the government placing this, I think, will help in the way that, like, we're not competition for all healthcare companies or AHS. We are all here to make sure that everybody's getting the best life that they can, and whatever that is the way it's going to go. We're not against anybody. All we want to do is help. We want to help people live the highest quality of life that they can.
I think because there's been so many scandals and things in the news, to deal with government and overspending. What would you say to people that are concerned that when you have, private industry working with healthcare, that, the money they need to make for profit is coming out of what could be going to the client in terms of healthcare?
I think we can answer that too. I think one is by providing a program like this where we can actually build through Alberta Blue Cross. It actually allows us to make sure that there's always a public component to what we're offering.
Mm-hmm.
And where we're able to provide that extra assistance is where traditionally our healthcare system doesn't account for that, for the parts of senior care that they need safely to live in their home. When you think of meal prep or housekeeping, traditionally that has not been accounted for in what care is. And so our healthcare system has never been designed to absorb that. However, in today's day and age, for our seniors to age in place with dignity and age in place with high quality of life, that's kind of the new standard, if you will, from what their expectations are. So I think it's a great bridge in making sure that we still have a very viable publicly funded healthcare system. And the great thing about this program is it's not income tested. It's a needs test. So if the need is there, the approval is there. And if a client has the capacity or wants to, by choice, have extra care provided to them, they pay privately for that portion of the service.
Mm-hmm.
This only allows them the actual need as determined by AHS. And so we have a neutral provider assessing that need. And so I think it puts all of us, whether we're in a private provider space, it puts us all on a same even page. And the best beauty that I think we show and can provide is that when we provide that care, we're not just here for the individual that we're providing care for. We're here to support the entire family. And that has overreaching beyond just an acute care need, continuing care need. It's providing that mental well-being for the entire family. And that absolutely has, tangible or intangible, has a huge impact on our society and economy as a whole.
And I feel like that's where private comes into play, is we're not just there to take care of the client. We become part of the family. So we're also there to take care of the family members that have been doing it already. So it takes a load off of everybody. And the family gets that relief and that time off that they need, and they get to enjoy their family again as a family and not as a caregiver.
I think there's a disconnect, and it's generational, and it affects affluent Western cultures the most. And that's where, traditionally, children grew up in the same general location as their parents, and children saw their parents age. They saw, the things that happen to you through aging, disability, issues that can arise. But now so many people live in other parts of the country, other parts of the world, that they're unprepared. I mean, we have this weird demographic, right, where we have this big blurt coming through of people that weren't caregivers for their parents, right? And now they in turn are needing care, and there's not a generational understanding there of, as you say, the loneliness, the loss of dignity, the need for, basic services that go beyond wound care and those types of things. So I think there's a lot of education that goes hand in hand. What do you think, Al?
I think this is an amazing program, and I think it's going to make such a huge difference in people's lives. The person receiving the care, but as also Rihanna said, everybody around her. Maybe, right now there's a daughter who's got her own family and she's working really hard to take care of her own family. And she has to, and with the extra demands of taking care of her mom, she's stressed out and find it hard to, take care of her own family. So I think it is a beautiful program that's going to make a huge difference. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think there's a reality that we have to look at. Our healthcare system is continuously evolving, as it should, because the needs of society are shifting. And I think the more proactive, and that's how we look at it, the more proactive we can be, there is a savings to our overall healthcare system. And we have great relationships with other AHS partners to make sure that we are providing a very high level of care. We work with our primary care physicians. We work with acute care when our clients are in hospital. We work with transition teams. We are, I think, part of the puzzle to all make this happen. And that's providing a very high level of care that Albertans can count on.
You know what? Even I have an experience with my dad. When my mother passed away, my dad was like useless. Like, he didn't know how to cook. He didn't know how to wash clothes, nothing. Right. And because he didn't eat very well, he wasn't taking his meds, his health just deteriorated, right? You talked to him on the phone and, you couldn't even, he was incoherent, basically. And so this would then, again, be a level to support, even if he didn't need care physically, medically, that he would be able to get the supports, that he's going to eat well, and he's going to get support in terms of getting his prescriptions and getting those filled, and, taking his meds and just eating well and having a tidy home and feeling loved by having somebody come in and support him. Right. So, yeah. That's beautiful.
How do you feel yourselves in terms of advocacy? So do you represent the client to Alberta Healthcare, or do you liaison for Alberta Healthcare with the client? Like, I
would say kind of both, but realistically, we are the client's advocate 100%. We've just learned over the last 4 years of being in business that well, I guess I shouldn't say that, but like the ins and outs of AHS, so we can help them around that. Now that with this program, like having AHS essentially being on our side as well to make sure that these people are getting the best care possible, they're kind of advocating for their care as well. So it's everybody's trying to make sure that the client is getting the best care possible.
Yeah. And at the same time, improving that efficiency, right? So that, when we have a very high qualified staff of healthcare aides, LPNs, RN, so when they have to phone the case manager at AHS and say, this is what's happening with our client, and we need to either get them transported to hospital or we need to do this, it's healthcare workers communicating with other healthcare workers just from a different setting versus. So I think what happens is when we say there's a need that, this patient is struggling with this client is struggling with this, they understand it, because it's like legalese, or if you will, healthcareese, right? There's a certain language that they have to understand, and they do understand. So when they're hearing that information firsthand from a fellow healthcare provider, they understand that level of urgency if needed, or where that needs to be. And so it allows us to, there's ways to make things happen, I guess, within our acute care system if someone's severely ill, and allows us to make sure that that happens in a very time sensitive, and when it needs to be time sensitive. And other times this can hold off. And when they can take the recommendation from our care team that we can wait till Monday, or this can't wait till Monday, then there's an opportunity to address that. So we're actually absolutely maximizing healthcare dollars.
Yeah. So it's basically kind of a system navigation supports that they get just as being part of this network, right? So yeah, cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And so with us providing, we're just another provider and an option for families who would prefer to be at home versus in care facilities and supportive living. And every family is now in an opportunity where they can make those decisions that best work for their family.
And we found that like the HS system is actually kind of taken us on as like an advocate, in the sense that like if one of our clients ends up in hospital, they're really appreciative that we're still able to go in and provide care, especially if they're short-staffed in the hospital. We actually just ran into that situation. Our caregivers were still able to go in and provide that companionship and provide the dietary needs and the
advocate for what our clients were needing.
Yes.
In the hospital, are you saying, Rihanna?
In the hospital, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Sure. Cool.
And there's still, so what it did is allowed us to facilitate some of the needs that our clients needed a lot sooner, because we recognize this is out of norm for them. Right. So what that does, when you have an LPN saying this is not their normal, talking to another LPN, they were able to go back to the acute care teams in the hospital and say, we need to be on this because of this, this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
I love this program.
And it's a proactive approach, and and I think it will, as I mentioned earlier, it is about changing the needs of what we need out of healthcare now versus what we needed 50, 60 years ago. It's changing. Our society needs to change. This is adapting. It's not perfect, but it's a step in the right direction as far as
huge step. Scott had a comment.
Yeah, a question actually, and it dovetails in perfectly. It's like you segued us. This is a fantastic improvement that I think is pretty hard not to see as an improvement. Where do you see, from your personal experience and from your professional understanding, where do you see us being 10 years from now in this field?
This is a great question.
This is a great question.
Robin's experienced this personally already, so this is a great question.
And part of how Seamless Cares came about was my husband was sick back in 2000. He got sick in 2015. And so what I identified then, that there were some huge gaps in what I could do and help provide for him. And so Seamless Cares really started because of what I identified then wasn't available to me at the time. And so my hope and our hope with Seamless Cares is that we can start bridging those gaps. And I think you are seeing our provincial government move towards a more collaborative approach to healthcare. It's not just primary care, acute care. It's providers like us providing that in-home care. It's all of us at the table finding the right solutions specific to that client's needs. And not all of our clients need to see a GP. Many of them do. But it does mean when we have to phone our primary care physician and say, this is what our client's struggling with, that we're getting in front of the right people at the right time so we can best use our healthcare dollars.
I think one of the things that you've touched on a few times, and I think that our society has a phobia of having private enterprise involved in what they see as government business. And we're getting much wiser than that. I've lived abroad in many countries, and countries where it's a collaborative approach between the families, between, caregivers, and it may be cultural, it may be like yourselves, an enterprise, but where you have that collaboration, the ultimate outcome is better care.
Yes.
Not just for the people that need the care, but as you said, the families, the communities, because when somebody suffers in a community, the neighborhood suffers as well.
Yes.
Right? It's not limited to that house, it spreads through the community. So I'm happy to see, and I think that Alberta is one area where we're not as phobic of that collaboration between private enterprise and
I agree with that.
Yeah. And it's 100% right. I mean, it's all players at the table,
Yeah.
right? And there is a role for private enterprise within our healthcare system.
Yeah.
And I'm the first advocate. I believe in and Seamless Cares believes in a publicly funded healthcare system.
Yeah.
Our acute care or primary care needs to be publicly funded.
Yeah.
This is taking that extension where we're providing public dollars to make sure that care is there.
Mhm.
And then for those families who want additional care or there is the ability to top up from there.
Yeah.
And
What
so
if
we're filling that
that's-
basic need as well as an extra need. And that is vital to how we grow.
We always have an argument in my house, and it's, I think that private healthcare is important. I think to have a balanced system, that having options is important for everyone, regardless of where you sit on the economic scale. But how does the program help people that, let's say, are financially destitute? They just have no extra money. What can they do?
Well, I think because this gives them the choice of who they want to be their provider. There are providers who can work with very low cost margins and make sure that all their care needs are being met. And then for those that want more, they can pay for more. And so I think what this ultimately does is make sure that there's base funding for everybody who needs it.
Alan,
That being said, we're not the perfect fit for everybody, and
And we
that's
know
why
that.
that's why we love this program, because there's a list currently, even just for Lethbridge, there's a list of like 10 to 15 providers just that can provide in the Lethbridge area. So
one size fits most. I can say from being a bigger person, one size fits most
Yeah.
is you know what comes next. It
yeah,
doesn't
exactly,
help anyone.
exactly.
So,
Yeah.
Alan, given your profession, do you think that there's, if it doesn't exist now, do you think it might be coming where benefits could help support something like this in terms of the care they can provide? That's a difficult question, I know.
Yeah, no, I would certainly think it would, though. Like, I mean, right now, most of the contracts have healthcare supports, like medical healthcare supports, right? Home nursing care, those kind of things, which wouldn't extend to this. But why? Obviously, the need is there, and people are going to have those supports. And if people can, if it's more cost effective for them to buy insurance and have that protection instead, well, why wouldn't they, right? So, yeah.
Well,
So yeah, no, if it doesn't exist right now, which I'm gonna have to do some homework now, but
Some providers do actually have some, shockingly, Blue Cross, right?
Yeah.
Some do have some coverage, but their parameters are very strict
right,
right now. So our hope is that in the future, their parameters kind of do a little bit more lenient on that. Like right now, they can't have anything less than an LPN in their house, that kind of thing. But my guess is with this new program, those kind of benefits will definitely come, and they'll be a little bit more lenient in the kind of care.
the
And
system
also-
has to change,
And I
right?
use one example that I think comes to mind. We have a client of ours who isn't able to do a lot for herself. She's wheelchair bound, can't move. A lot of her is not ambulatory in a lot of those ways. Her mother was hospitalized, and it was one of our caregivers that went with our client to help care for her mother and do things like paint her nails and do her hair. Our client physically can't do that. So that emotional connection for our client was like, they were so overwhelmed that we would actually help brush their mother's hair because they physically could not.
Mhm,
That warms my heart because we're
Mhm.
talking about, I'm brushing somebody's hair.
mhm. Yeah, huge.
And our
huge.
medical system, and it never was designed to be able to accommodate tasks like that,
Right.
but that's what we need today. That's not what we needed 60, 70 years ago, but that's what we need today. That
It
level
is.
of humanity.
Alan,
Go
we
ahead.
have 1 minute.
1 minute.
Yeah, sorry, ladies. Alan and I
No,
can
you're
talk
fine.
all night, no problem.
We can talk about this all night, so you guys
Yeah.
let us know.
And we get on a runaway, and we're trying to keep it to 30 minutes is what we're trying to do, because
Totally.
we have a podcast. This is a podcast as well.
Right.
So, but one thing I want to just kind of add in here is like loneliness is an epidemic, right?
Oh.
50, 60 years ago, you grew up and there was always people around you, right? There was like, 6 people in a 1,000 square foot home, right? Now there could be where you're by yourself in a 2,500 square foot home, but you're all on your own, right?
And your
that
kids are
loneliness-
5,000 miles away.
Yeah, exactly. So even this, in terms of the mental health supports and the engagement with another human being, that you can kind of, and the same human being, right? You assign somebody and they come back week after week or day after day kind of thing, depending on the need, right? Huge benefit. Yes.
Huge.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Well, it's
So
really
with
exciting.
go ahead. What was you going to say, Scott?
I was just going to say it's really exciting what you guys are doing, and we're really lucky in the community to have this option. And thank you for coming tonight and sharing that with us. And we really hope that people will contact you with questions they have. And the change is going to come because the world is market driven, and there's a huge demographic of people that are reaching retirement and advanced age and are going to need care, and it has to come in some form or another. And I think this is a great way to start that and usher it in.
So our viewers, if you are interested in learning more, we've been displaying the website on here, but maybe you're just listening to the audio portion. It's seamlesscares.ca. Just go on there and you send a little contact us, and one of the lovely people there, maybe Rhiannon and Robin themselves, will get back to you and let you know how they might be able to assist you.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that Alan and I don't get paid. We don't accept any advertising promotion. When we invite guests on, it's because we believe in what they're doing, and we want to share that with our viewers and our listeners. So this isn't a case of that it's, we're advertising Seamless Care Services. We really think they're cool, and there's an interesting opportunity here with them or people who do similar things to them. And we really hope that our community gets healthier, more hopeful, and it brings about happiness for everyone involved.
Well said, Scott. Ladies, do you have anything you want to add as we wrap this show up?
I just thank
you for
so
the opportunity.
much. Yeah.
And just, we are an Alberta made solution to an Alberta, and it's not just an Alberta problem, but it's a national problem, but we are a local solution to it. And we're excited to live here. We work here, we volunteer here, and we have an amazing team behind us that make all this happen.
Yeah.
Beautiful. You're beautiful human beings. We're glad to have you on here. Scott, take us home there, brother.
Thank you for our visitors tonight. Seamless Care, look them up. The ladies will certainly help you get the problem solved. My good friend, Alan Friesen, the acapellist, and myself, Scott Sweetman, have a great week, and we'll see you back here next week, 7 p.m. Thank you very much.